And welcome to Tyra Mini Reads, Reviews, Discusses, Monologues about everything and anything, and that's on period. Hi guys, and welcome to my channel. So today, we are going to be doing a July wrap-up. Yeah! Woohoo! So in July, I read 5 books. I'm doing this video a little earlier because I will be out on vacation in August, and so I still have one book that I'm going to finish in July, probably ending of July, but I will probably talk about that last book a little here, and I will just talk about it in my August wrap up. But I did not want to not give you guys what I read in July, and I did read quite a lot. So let's get into it. Okay, so the first or one of the books I read in July was A Natural History of Dragons by Marie Brennan. So this book, I've had it on my shelves for a while. I really was interested by the synopsis because it's like a memoir, and it's like, it just says at the back, says, "You, dear reader, continue at your own risk. It's not for the faint of heart, no more than the study of dragons itself." Pretty much we follow Lady Trent, who is like an explorer kind of person, where she is studying dragons. This is set in like a London-ish, UK-ish kind of vibe, where names are kind of inverted, but you can kind of get the idea that they are, it's like a Victorian kind of setting or something like that. And in that time period, it is frowned upon for ladies to have such interest in, traipsing around the forest and looking for dragons, that kind of stuff. So from a very young age, we see that Lady Trent is someone who cares about, or studying dragons. And so you see her kind of get into some things when she's younger, and she eventually gets married to a fella that I guess encourages her studies, and they are then able to go on an expedition to study dragons. So it wasn't a bad read. I think what I didn't like is the dragons are so they're so inactive. Pretty much, it's literally about studying the dragons, and like you can see, it has drawings on it. That's literally it. Another thing is Lady Trent as a character was very unlikable. I did not like her. I really didn't like her. So it was just not a good read for me. I enjoyed other aspects of it. The writing was good. I think the Lady Trent herself was just terrible, and I just, not like she was terrible, but she was wayward, and when she was young, and as she grew older, she was also wayward. I was like, no. So it wasn't my fave. This book actually has it's all completed. There's 4 books in the whole book series, and they're all completed, and people actually say they're pretty interesting and good. So I mean, if you care about those kinds of, like, that kind of setting, where dragons are really like the backdrop, they're not really the main focus. I mean, it seems like they're the main focus, but it's really not. Go ahead and pick it up. So all right, the next book that I read in July was so I had just finished reading PSR, that's Problematic Summer Romance, I think I read it in June. And so I really wanted something of Ali Hazelwood to read, and so I picked up Checkmate, which is a very young adult book by Ali Hazelwood. Checkmate is not bad. We follow Mallory and Nolan, and it talks about they're like excellent chess players. They're super intelligent, and they're like world champions. Now, I really like the part about the chess, even the competitions and all of that. I don't know anything about chess, but it was super interesting, and the discipline that these kids have to show or have, just to be able to compete. I thought that was great. Mallory was not my fave. She was self-destructive, even to her family. I thought that was so unattractive. And she's super young. So, I mean, again, I understand, like, a lot of things happen to her at a very young age, and so that makes sense. But I'm just like, okay. So yeah, that's my gripe with Mallory. But other than that, she was good. I mean, the book was really good. Nolan was just no personality. I don't really have a lot to say. He literally played against Mallory, and like that was it. And we didn't really get his POV, so it's really hard to say like what. Like it was okay. That's what I'm gonna say. Not my favorite alley. Sad, but I mean, it is what it is. Okay, so that's all I'm gonna say on that. All right. So the next book that I read in July of 2025 was The Sleepless by Jen Williams. Now this book is not out yet. It's gonna be coming out later this year. I requested an arc on Goodreads. Was it Goodreads? No, it was NetGalley. I'm sorry. I requested an arc on NetGalley, and I got approved to read this book, and so I did, and it was it was interesting. Okay, so it's a YA book. We follow a very very young set of characters, just kind of like Check and Mate. Check and Mate was also really young. They were like 19, 17. The Sleepless is also super young. We follow Atir and Elver, which this is like a fantasy world that has to do with gods, but the mythology of these gods is not really explained. You just know that you have people that worship the gods. Like there's the serpent, there's the god of like fire, passion ish, and there's like the gods, like the trickster god. So there's like different gods, and people in this like world worship them. And so Elver, she is an orphan that was in an orphanage, and you know, these two apprentices of a god came over, and they kind of like adopted her, but it was to use her for nefarious reasons. So I don't want to give too much into the story because the book is not yet out, but it was a pretty good read. It's like it's a quest, right? There's a quest involved, and it's like a revenge story ish. So it was pretty good. It wasn't up to the par of like Ninth Rain, which is my ultimate top favorite book of Jen Williams. I read she had another book come out, something that had to do with griffins. I also didn't like that book. I mean, it wasn't my fave. It's on my shelf. Talon Sister, that's the name. It wasn't my fave. I don't know why. I don't know. So the Sleepless was okay. It's not bad. You know, pick it up when it comes out. It's really young adult, so you know that's something, and it has to do with like forest magic, and like I said, there's gods and stuff like that. So, so far a pretty good read for me. So yeah, the next book, let me check my notes. hmm The next book that I read was Grave Empire by Richard Swan. So, if you know or you don't already know, Richard Swan wrote Empire of the Wolf, which I absolutely loved. That's the Justice of Kings, Tyranny of Fate, and the last one is The Trials of Empire. This trilogy is called The Great Silence, the first book being Grave Empire. So it's set in the same world as the Empire of the Wolf, where this is like a grim dark horror kind of book. It's we follow a couple of characters. We follow like an ambassador, Renata. We follow a lord in the assembly, and then we also follow a guy, Peter, who's a soldier. So we follow these three main characters kind of loosely throughout the books. And some things, sinister things are going on. But you can't really like get the hype of what's happening. So I would say that Richard Swan built up the suspense, just kind of like what V.E. Schwab did in Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil, you get this like building dread, like, oh my God, what's going on? What's happening, right? Throughout the book. And that was really interesting. Like, I don't like horror, but I read this book and I was like, oh my God, I need the second book like right away. So it's not so action packed, right? There's action spread out, but it's more like that building sense. Like I said, we follow, and then there's so if you've read The Empire of the Wolves, you understand that there's like the magic in this book is more like on the magic realism side. It's not super, explained. It's more, and it has to do more with like the afterlife, where there's spirits that sometimes can be drawn into our plane or our world, and they are, some people who have those magical tendencies are able to use those spirits to do nefarious things. So this one follows there are these monks that come to like the main country, the main city, and they are telling the Senate that, hey, we have lost contact with the afterlife, and this is very on this is very weird, right? And in our text or text that we've read or we've looked at, there is something called the Great Silence, which means that, something really bad is happening and we are not safe. And so we need to investigate this more. So they send Renata, who is a ambassador to the mermaids or mermen. There are mermaids in this story, because the mermen have more knowledge about, the arcane and all stuff like that. So they're like, okay, Renata, you go with the monks and go visit the merman and see if you can find any information about what's happening. So that's kind of like the starting of the book. It was a really, really, really good read. I enjoyed reading Grave Empire. It was big. It's not too big, but I definitely will be continuing on in the series. I think that Richard Swan is excellent at writing this kinds of book, this kind of stories. And yeah, it's a super, super good read. I definitely recommend 5 stars. Okay, so the last book that I picked up in July was The Devils by Joe Abercrombie. Okay, guys, so I am Lady Lord Grimdark. I'm just messing. I love Joe Abercrombie. I read the first Law trilogy and the other books that he wrote in that world, like Death Surf Code and others. And I really, really loved the first Law. I think First Law by itself was my favorite trilogy. I did not really. I mean, the Age of Madness is not bad, but I think I just really love that First Law trilogy. That's like my top favorite books. This one is kind of in that line of grim dark, but it's a bit different. So this is more about the church, where in First Law it's more just like magic, right? But even Age of Madness is more like just magic and politics and stuff like that. This has to do with the church, and it's loosely kind of based on the Catholic Church ish. But there's some inversions where the savior in this world is a woman. So yeah, that was weird. But anyways, we follow Brother Diaz, who's a monk that is he is he's how do I say it? He's summoned. I lost the word. He's summoned to the sacred city. Let's something like a Rome, to meet the Pope. But actually, he meets a Cardinal Zesca, who tells him like, "Hey, we have a job for you, and if you can do this job, you will be, promoted to whatever the next rank is." Blah 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 blah. And so, but then, she says some things, and he's a bit troubled because she's like, "Yeah, there's gonna be danger. There's gonna be this, blah blah blah." So he's a little like, what's going on?" The mission really is to escort a girl called Alexia to Troy. And he has something called that there's a couple of people that are going to go on this journey with Brother Diaz, and he quickly finds out, they call them his congregation, and they quickly find out that those companions are, you know, supernatural, the supernatural kind. We have a vampire, we have a wolf, we have a werewolf, we have an elf, and then a, who was the other, a magician, and then we had one other guy, so a cursed guy, let me put it that way. So this merry band of misfits are going to journey from, again, Rome to Troy. It's a long journey, and along the way they are beset by crazy villains, and they have to fight a lot of people. And so the book was like more like 80% fight scenes and maybe 20% crass, dark humor. It was funny. I'm not gonna lie. I chuckled a bit. I laughed a bit. Like, there were parts of this book that I definitely enjoyed, but it wasn't my top fave or my top read. And that's because I felt like, you know, there was so much repetition in what was being said, and some things were just so unnecessary. I mean, it wasn't bad, but it just wasn't my fave. But yeah, so those were, I'm gonna do a more detailed review because I don't want to give into spoilers. But if you care to know more about my thoughts on the Devils and Great Vampire, I will do a detailed review where I kind of compare the two, because they are both grim dark-ish stories, but there's definitely some differences and some similarities. So yeah. But yeah, that was my reading wrap up for July. The one book that I know I will finish in July, but I'm doing this video a little bit earlier, is Hyperion by Dan Simmons, I think. This is a sci-fi book, which is definitely out of my comfort zone, but I am super loving this. I am like maybe 200 pages in. So hopefully I will finish this, and I will do a review for it in August. I also plan on maybe going further in that Hyperion series because I'm really, really enjoying the book. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and let me know what you read in July. Let me know if you've read any of these books, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Thank you so much, and bye.